All right, hey guys, welcome to the video. If you're new here, my name's Curtis, and today we're gonna be talking about seductive fragrances. So please take all this with a grain of salt. These are what these fragrances mean to me. And so my image of a fragrance that is seductive is one that I would tend to reach for more so in the evening time. And that fragrance gives off, it has an alluring vibe about it. It's something that creates intrigue. People are gonna be like, hey, what, what's going on over here? Somebody smells good. It creates that curiosity and interest. And these are fragrances that, if I'm going to like some kind of lounge in the evening, a bar, maybe I'm going to some kind of live event, I'll probably reach for a fragrance like this, or like a date night or something kind of like that. When I kind of also want to give off like a feeling of sexiness and intrigue, these are the fragrances that I reach for. So if you're curious to hear my thoughts and opinions on these fragrances, then let's go. All right, first up from the house of Materie Perfume, we have Falcon Leather. Man, smoky, ambery, leathery, and slightly metallic. That's basically what you get here. And this fragrance might come off slightly animalic to some people, and that could be because of the birch star in here. It definitely gives off like a slight rubbery feel, but it's not unpleasant by any means. And actually, I really enjoy it. And in the deep dry down of this fragrance does turn quite ambery. And so that's where that kind of sex appeal comes from. And I absolutely love the wearing experience of this. And what I will say about Falcon Leather is it is quite beastly in terms of its performance. So with a fragrance like this, in my opinion, less is more. But it doesn't matter. Spray what you like, do what you love, and don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. But for me and my own personal preferences, I go with about 2 sprays of this and I'm set. And this lasts the entire time that I would need it for. Like I said, I'll reach for a fragrance like this in the evening time. So actually I only need like maybe 4 or 5 hours and I'm good. But this fragrance lasts way longer than that. This is an easy 10+ hour fragrance. It's quite beastly in terms of its projection and its performance. But yeah, this is such a lovely one. And Materie Perfume is a house that I'm definitely intrigued by. And I've smelled a lot of their fragrances and I actually do enjoy quite a few of them. But by far, at this point in my journey and in terms of the fragrances that I've smelled, Falcon Leather is hands down my favorite one. But yeah, this is a great one and definitely one to check out. So if you can, get yourself a sample of Falcon Leather by Materie Perfume. Next up from the house of Nassomatto, we have Baraonda. Man, so talking about an extremely realistic smelling whiskey fragrance. I mean, if you put this on, don't get in your car and start to drive, because if you get pulled over, you will probably be arrested because it smells that realistic. Now, you do get that feeling of booze through the entire wear of this fragrance, but as this fragrance starts to dry down, you get some extremely sexy ambery notes that start to push forward. And typically, kind of like I said in the intro, I'll reach for a fragrance like this if I'm going to like a bar, some kind of lounge. This fits perfectly in that atmosphere. And speaking about all these fragrances, that's where it's so important to match the atmosphere and vibe that you're going into. So if I'm going into a place that, serves alcohol, it's kind of nightlife, this kind of fragrance works perfectly for that type of environment. But like I said, this is such a realistic take on whiskey. And there is some comparison to Unique Luxury's Couté, and I have sampled Couté before. And I would say in terms of performance, Couté is probably the stronger fragrance. But in terms of, the wearability and the way that the scent develops on my skin, I prefer Baraonda. But I do think both of the fragrances are very good. But just in terms of my own personal preference, and especially more so in the dry down, I preferred Baraonda. But yeah, this is a great one and definitely one to check out. So if you can, get yourself a sample of Baraonda by Nasomatto. Next up from the house of Maxime Perfume, we have Oud Indochin. Talking about a fragrance that takes you on a journey. And these are the types of fragrances that I'm looking for now in terms of where I am in my own personal fragrance journey. I'm looking for those fragrances that will take you somewhere, those transportive fragrances. And that's what this fragrance is to me. Now, upon initial spray with this one, you're getting hit with a pretty heavy blast of spice, but that spice is rounded out quite nicely with some vanilla and beeswax. And then deeper into the dry down, you do get some slight ambery notes, but you also get, which is what is really interesting to me, I get these nuances of tobacco. Now, tobacco is not listed in the note breakdown of this fragrance, but I'm catching that in the air, and that is just providing, I love the note of tobacco. So it's just providing like a sexy kind of earthy quality to this fragrance. And then you're also getting that oud in here that starts to push forward. There are two different kinds of oud, but it doesn't come off animalic. This is a very wearable oud. It does kind of have like a darkness about it as well. But what gives this fragrance another dimension is you also have some cocoa that's kind of blended in with this. So it's almost giving this fragrance a kind of like a chocolatey like facet to it. But man, like I said, that just adds to the sexiness of this fragrance. But man, this is such a gorgeous wear. And when you catch whiffs of this in the air, it brings people in. I'm telling you, in terms of oud fragrances in my collection, this is by far my favorite. And I have some pretty good oud fragrances, but this is my top oud fragrance in my collection. It is really that good. And I want to be very transparent with you guys. This fragrance was gifted to me by the brand. Yeah, I don't even know what to say. I'm speechless. It is an amazing oud fragrance, hands down the best in my collection, so I can't speak more highly about this. In terms of the performance with this fragrance, this is a one spray fragrance for me because, you know, as you guys know, I believe in subtlety, kind of less is more, and this pushes out quite heavily, and the sillage trail that this one leaves lingers. Like this lingers in the air. People will smell you, and the sprayers on here really kind of push out. So you're getting a lot of juice just from one spray. But yeah, this is a one sprayer for me. It's perfect for those cooler, cold, winter evening nights, you know, when you're going out. But yeah, this fragrance will bring that seductiveness and that intrigue. It will bring people in. They will follow you. I love this one, and this is definitely one to check out. So if you can, get yourself a sample of Oud Indochine by Maxime Perfume. Next up, from the house of Amouage, we have Overture Woman. Man, sweet, juicy, boozy, warm, and spicy. You have a bit of rose in here, which is adding kind of like, it's giving off a bit of like a soapy-like quality, which is just adding like some complexity and depth. But man, this is such a gorgeous wear. It's just very opulent, perfectly blended, you know, and this is unisex. Don't be afraid that it says Overture Woman. Men, you can totally pull this one off. I'm telling you, this is unisex right down the middle. If a woman wears this, she's gonna be extremely sexy. Man wears this, he's gonna be extremely sexy. There's just that alluring and intrigue about this fragrance. And, you know, this is a very situational fragrance for me, kind of like I said and I described in the intro. You know, I reach for this one in the evenings, but for a specific type of environment, atmosphere. You know, if I'm going to a bar or a lounge, this is a fragrance I'm reaching for just because it fits in that environment extremely well. But this also works pretty well, like if you're going to like maybe like an upscale restaurant, kind of like a date. This would work perfectly for that. Man, you get that apple and brandy up top. In the mid, you have that a bit of rose that's just, you know, kind of dancing around your head. And then you also get a bit of leather in the dry down. I think a bit of olibanum as well. But man, this is a banger, I'm telling you. And you know, I think Overture Man is also a lovely fragrance, but that definitely is a masculine smelling fragrance to my nose. It has that smokiness. This one, like I said, completely unisex, wearable by men. Don't be afraid of the name. This is a gorgeous one. So if you can, get yourself a sample of Overture Woman by Amouage. And finally, from the house of Meo Fusciuni, we have Little Song. Man, this is a dark, mysterious, slightly haunting, very intriguing, and just overall downright sexy fragrance. And when you look at the note breakdown of this fragrance, this has black coffee, tobacco, vetiver, and rose. Those are basically my favorite notes in perfumery, or, you know, some of them anyway. But you might think, how can like a coffee fragrance be sexy? I'm telling you it is. And if you're looking for one of those fragrances to take you on a journey, this is it. This fragrance takes you on a journey. And what I really love about this fragrance too is you are getting a heavy blast of coffee here, but you also get kind of like a green spicy rose that's pushing through. And I love the note of rose, and it works so perfectly well in here. And you also are getting kind of like a dry tobacco, which is providing a bit of earthiness. This fragrance is unisex, leaning right down the middle. In terms of its performance, I would say it's moderate sillage, moderate projection, but for a fragrance like this, that's all you need. And I think in many ways, when you wear a fragrance that, you know, is moderate in its performance, it almost provides another level of seduction because you're not throwing it in people's face, and it just, you know, those whiffs are going by, and those subtle whiffs that you're catching just every so often is what kind of draws people in my opinion. But yeah, this is a great one. I think in general, the house of Matteo Fusciuni is an extremely underrated house. He just does phenomenal work. I have another fragrance by him as well called Viola Neri, and that's a kind of like an iris orris kind of powdery balm. But man, Little Song is one of those fragrances, like I said, it takes you on a journey from beginning to end. And I remember when I smelled this one at the Nose Shop in Tokyo, I smelled it on a blotter, and I was blown away just from the blotter. But when I put this one on skin, it just completely opened up, and I was literally floored. It is that good. It is borderlining that masterpiece realm for me personally. But yeah, this is a great one and definitely one to check out. So if you can, get yourself a sample of Little Song by Matteo Fusciuni. All right, guys, so that's all I have for you for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed today's content, and let me know down in the comment section, what are some fragrances that you have in your own collection that you consider seductive fragrances? I'd love to hear about them. Well, I hope you guys are staying healthy and well, and I'll see you in the next video.